Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
We are back with a listener mailbag episode for The Way Home, season 4, number 2 for the season. If you want to participate in future listener mailbag episodes, send us your emails, hello@girlsgonehallmark.com, or shoot us a voicemail, 949-329-8090. We typically record these on Wednesday of the week following the episodes. You have a couple days to get your thoughts in time for the episode.
I did look at our email last night and saw that we had quite a few, but there's even more today. That's exciting. So thanks for listening and thanks for writing in, guys. Can I start with this first one?
Yeah, ma'am.
Email from Lindsay titled Redemption for Elliot. Hey, my mom and I are back to loving your podcast. Thanks for all of your thoughts and hot takes. First things first, shout out to Francisco for standing up for Elliot and calling out Wendy. ... Haha, sorry. # Team Elliot.
Wendy's making a sad face.
I'm not making a sad face. I think I did address.
You did, very much.
I mean, it's been.
You can have an opinion. People are just having fun.
I know. I don't feel I don't feel bad about it, but it has been weighing on my heart for a whole week and a half. Anyway, Lindsay goes on to write, you guys mentioned Kat and Jacob communicating via text and thought maybe Kat knows more about Jacob. However, it looks like the conversation is very one-sided with Kat sending updates and Jacob not responding. In the preview for the next episode, we get a glimpse of Tessa. When did Alice previously meet the girl quoting T.S. Eliot? Wasn't that in 1974? So if Alice is back in the 70s, Tessa looks more grown up, right? Check out this picture for comparison.
They're in the email, but they wouldn't copy into here. She does look a little bit older, but I think if you look at like a 14 and a 16-year-old, there's a big difference in how they can grow up a lot in that time.
Okay, I will put the photo in our show notes.
Yes.
At girlsgonehallmark.com.
She also sent a screenshot of the texts from Kat to Jacob.
I do recall it was kind of all one-sided.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob's not responding back.
No. Assuming Jacob is in the present and can respond.
Exactly.
Dun, dun, dun.
She finishes with saying, it will sure be interesting to watch the mysteries unravel this season. Thanks for your insights. Signed, Lindsay, who is also Team Francisco. Ha, ha, ha.
Next up, we have a voicemail from listener Lance.
Love it.
Hi, guys. This is Lance Summering. Leaving a voicemail and answering questions or demanded. However you want to say, I'm on a walk with the guys in bad cell phone area, so we'll see whether you can even do this. You just want to follow up on the idea that maybe I'm being a little harsh in that last email. It's just a reflection of my job. I spent so much of my time playing seats that are overly dating things and making conclusions and I don't have enough information. So I always qualify anything I ever write anywhere. So usually if I had only last 49 out of 50 things and I looked at it, I think that I would still say some kind of qualifiers every once in a while. As always, enjoy the podcast. You like for the story. Whether I understand who the one is going to be or not, or if it just makes me think of Highlander where there can only be one. Anyway, thanks. Appreciate the podcast.
I can only imagine Lance's internal dialogue when he listens to our podcast.
Sorry, Lance.
I love it. I'm so glad that he called us on his dog walk.
Sorry we bullied you into it, Lance, but we really loved it.
Keep them coming.
We have an email from Jennifer who says, I hope this isn't too weird, but I couldn't decide how to organize my thoughts on this episode. So I decided to do it by going beat by beat throughout your episode on my second time listening. Overall, I'm really liking the season so far. Also, I was the one who wrote in before the season began, wondering if Hallmark would do the same kind of YouTube after show that it did for When Calls the Heart. They are not. They did release a video about the costumes before the season began, and they are releasing episode highlights and previews, so they are not ignoring it. A non-Hallmark podcast I listen to talks about holding theories loosely. I think that's always important for shows like The Way Home, but especially as we come to the end. It's great to theorize, but we cannot become so enamored with our own theories we get angry when the show goes a different way. I would add that a particular subgenre of this is to be upset when the show goes with something that people who listen to podcasts and or post to Reddit and social media think is too obvious. Usually that just means the writers did a good job of setting up the ending and are not throwing in something random to catch people off guard.
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
I'm curious what podcast Jennifer is referring to, the non-Hallmark podcast about holding theories loosely. I might want to listen. So Jennifer, email us. I'm curious. Give me your podcast recommendations.
So Jennifer sent the most detailed email we have received to date. I highlighted a few of her many, many, many points. She says, Del not being there for Elliot. I think she's referring to him not being able to live with them. Colton tells her to not even bother asking Elliot to spend the night since he'll say no. I think Del knew that Vic was abusive and didn't want them under the same roof, but for reasons we'll find out, presumably they weren't able to do that. Also, in terms of your conversations of her not being there for Elliot after Jacob and Colton in 1999 and 2000, that's probably true. But interestingly, at the beginning of season 1, they already have a close relationship before Kat has moved back. So at some point, they restarted their closeness outside of him being with Kat. I think that's probably good for them to have a relationship outside of him being her likely future son-in-law. Speaking of which, season 2, and I think even in a little of season 1, there were also times Del and Brady were really in sync. It's interesting that Del can make these good relationships with Kat's men, even when she and Kat can have a hard time.
She does have a really good point. Back in season 1, Elliot and Del were
Quite close.
Already close. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She goes on to say, is Jacob a main character? You both dislike Jacob being away, in part because the show is about family. I would counter that for some reason I remember the initial description of the show, which didn't mention time travel, described it about 3 generations of women learn how to find their way back to each other. So I've always seen the main characters as just Del, Kat, and Alice. I think Elliot, Colton, and Jacob in that order as our strongest secondary characters. Everyone else, even Alice's boyfriend Brady and Rita, are tertiary. I think Casey is probably tertiary as well based on screen time, but this season may change my perspective. While Jacob has been important to characters, it's often his absence more than his presence that's important. In some ways, he's more an object being sought than a driver of the plot. I think that's very interesting. He may be who they are looking for, but he didn't choose to go into the pond the first time. Alice and Kat drive the plot every time they choose, and sometimes are fated into the pond. About Tessa Cooper, I agree that Fern recognizes the last name Cooper. Also, I was screaming in my head during the party for Kat to bring up Tessa's maiden name to people. I know I'm not the only one to think this, but the fortune teller could be someone, probably Tessa. If Fern knows Tessa, that means Fern has met a time traveler without realizing she was a time traveler. Do you think there are others? Ash, mirroring the 1926 story about the sailor, I think that's kind of ominous. Also mirrored again, according to Del, with what Fern said about her baby daddy, which I think is a lie.
Oh.
I think it was a lie when Fern said it too. She was just making up that story.
God, this just makes me want to go back and watch the episode again.
Whole series.
This is incredible insight, I think, from Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
As we're like reading through it, I'm like, is Jennifer a writer on the show? Being very sneaky about giving us the inside baseball of it all.
That's funny. I don't think she is, but she's quite insightful.
Yeah. Okay. Our next email is from Lisa. Hi, Megan and Wendy. We love your show so much. Thanks. Thank you for getting your episodes out the very next day after the episode airs. I know I emailed you guys last year about this, but I wanted to reiterate that there's no question in my mind that Alice is, quote, the one. They have told us that from the very start. Her last name is Alice Dewan, which basically sounds like the one.
And also means the one.
Oh, does it also mean the one?
Yeah, I think so.
God, I just gotta say, like, shout out to the writers of the show for the foresight to come up with all that.
Oh, maybe not. It means runner or messenger.
But that is interesting too.
Yeah. I know there's some pushback about Alice being the one because Fern says, well, it couldn't be you because you're not a boy.
That was
or because
to Kat.
Couldn't be you because you're a girl. Fern does not say because you're not a boy. And another theory that I read somewhere this week was that because Fern says, it couldn't be you because you're a girl, it could point to KC.
Oh.
Not pointing to a girl. But also, it's possible that Fern got mixed up and assumed it was a man. We don't know. We don't know the details there.
Wow.
Our next email is from Sarah. Hi, Megan and Wendy. Great recap of this week's episode. I love to hear your theories and those of the other listeners in the mailbag. In response to last week's mailbag, I don't think Alice buried Tessa's suitcase. I thought that rock was her and Nick's rock at the Cove from their first kiss. I also thought that's why it would be such a memorable location for her. For this week's episode, I love the 1920s era. I love Gabriel as Grayson. Your theory of him as Sam blew my mind. And though they do have physical similarities, if this is true, how does he get to present day? Maybe this is where the pocket watch that was the gift from Griffin to Dell and Colton that went into the time capsule comes in. Regarding the mural, if it was just painted in 1925, how did the painter come up with it if it is supposed to depict Kat as the white witch protecting Evelyn and Colton in the pond in 1965? In the 1976 timeline, did you notice how lucid Fern was with Alice? In all of Kat's interactions with Fern in that decade, she was always so in her head with chants and singing. Then with Alice, she's lucid and calm. What changed in that short time period? Regarding the room and the tunnels, I think Alice was connecting with Jacob being held captive down there. She heard that story from Kat, but had not been down there herself. She couldn't really admit that to Colton, so she had to drop it quickly and follow him. I can't wait for next week. I'm so excited to see who Griffin is. There's another question further down about Gabriel as Grayson, and I didn't think it through how it could work. It was just a theory that I had in that moment. The timing is weird.
Because as of right now, we can't travel to the future that we're aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
So he would have to be from the future.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and if he were traveling straight forward in time, he'd be like 100 years old.
Yeah.
So
It's okay.
they're there. It's still not out of the realm of possibility.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Our next email's from Francisco. He writes, Megan and Wendy, okay, I feel like not a whole lot happened. I mean, Kat went to 1925, met Fern, and then stood around. Now I get that they want to establish who Fern is and who the players are. I just felt like not a whole lot happened in the past compared to 1976 and the present. That being said, let's talk about Fern. She's very cute and spunky. She seems so full of life and just fun. She's obviously a better journalist than Kat has been. Now, I don't think Grayson is Sam. Why can't he be someone new? Also, I did notice the reaction of Fern to Tessa Cooper's name. A lot of this was set up. Can we stop there for a second? Francisco asks, why can't Grayson just be someone new? I mean, Grayson can be someone new.
Sure.
But I feel like we put our clown makeup on when we watch this show.
Absolutely.
Because we're just trying to piece it all together.
100%.
You know, it's like when we watch Hallmark mysteries, we want to solve it before the end of the movie. I think that's how I feel like I watch this show. I want to solve it before.
Yeah, the mystery of Sam is a big one, and I would like to figure out who he is. And it's entirely possible Sam's not someone we've met already.
Yeah.
We don't know his connection.
Grayson.
No, Sam. I'm saying it's entirely possible Sam's not Griffin. Sam's not Grayson. Sam's not, Sam's not any of these people.
Right. Right. Francisco goes on. Ash was so awful. I don't blame Evie for wanting to raise Lewis on her own. He straddled the line between wannabe beatnik to future cult leader. LOL. I thought that was very funny. And I agree. Lingermore has probably seen more than one orgy since he showed up. Whoa. We did mention naked people, right? In our episode.
I think so.
I felt we got more answers in the search for Tessa in two places. One of those was with Alice. The stuff in the tunnel mirroring Kat's story wasn't very interesting in that regard. So far, it seems like unrelated filler when the show could be more focused on Tessa. Just my opinion, he writes.
Francisco goes on to say the conversations between Dell and Elliot and her flashbacks were the other place we got answers. It seems Griffin had a falling out with Colton over maybe something involving Tessa and the pond. Maybe that's what the auditory memory was, Colton yelling at Griffin to get out, because they're obviously still estranged in the 90s. I think between the present time and 1976 is when we'll get our answers regarding Griffin and Tessa. A lot was set up and not a lot happened. I hope in future episodes we get more than this because they only have 8 episodes left now to work with. And while I'm interested in Casey, Jacob, and Sam, I could care less about Nick and definitely not Claire, who I care less about. I don't know why people are still making these crazy theories. Alice is Claire.
Who's making those theories?
Amen, Francisco. If people are still saying that.
Where on Reddit?
I don't know. The thing about this show is the range of people discussing about it ranges from people who have really insightful, well thought out, well researched theories, and people who are watching and just make an S up on the spot. And it's hard to break it down to who you should be paying attention to.
Yeah. I don't care about Nick at all.
No, but it's just an unanswered question. Like, they floated this thing about Claire. It seems like, but that feels like it could be wrapped up, hopefully, fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Robin emails with a theory about Alice. I'm pretty sure she was pausing in front of the room that Jacob was held prisoner by Cyrus Goodwin. You could hear Evelyn in the background telling the group the history of the tunnels, and she mentions it once had prison cells. I'm still curious what Alice bent down to pick up. Was it a bullet? I'm not sure. Anyway, hope that clears one thing up. For me, the most obvious thing is that it's a bullet casing, but I wasn't 100% sure in the moment what it was.
Our next email's from Brooke, and she writes, I have a theory about who left Elliot at the pond, and I don't think it was his mother. Everyone keeps saying it looks like Alice. What if Alice and Elliot wrote the letter and left the baby because they knew Tessa wasn't able to come back, and they knew they would come along moments later and find him? I just don't think it's Tessa leaving him. There's too much trauma around that. That's a distraction. My opinion is it's going to be a super simple explanation of who left the baby at the pond.
We here on Girls Gone Hallmark never theorized that it was Alice who pushed herself into the pond. I was surprised by that. So I agree that it could be a possibility that we hadn't considered up to this point. We've all considered that it was Tessa, but it definitely could not have been. An email from Michelle says, hey, besties, back to the pond we go. I love the jumping back and forth between times. Here's my bullet points. Now we know why Norman isn't in Hannah Swenson movies. He's looking fine as Grayson, and Mama needs eye candy since there's no Thomas.
I don't hate this at all.
The Cliff character, more mystery. Fern is too much in any time. I love her. Elliot is getting on my last nerve. I love the character development, but I don't like this emo version.
We definitely are friends, Michelle.
And finally, the 70s are groovy, and I enjoyed revisiting the characters. Thanks to the podcast and for being real about the show.
Yeah, I was feeling like a person on an island out here, alone on an island about my thoughts on Elliot. And I love
Mama Needs Some Eye Candy. I think that needs to be the title of this episode.
Mama Needs Some Eye Candy. I love it. Great. Our next comment came on YouTube. Yes, our episodes air on YouTube in audio
the audio is syndicated to YouTube.
Glenn writes, one throwaway scene that stuck out for me was when Grayson told Kat that he had a fortune teller reading people's futures, and Fern quipped that Kat didn't need to know her future. I wondered why they had that scene at all, which led me to speculate that Tessa Cooper might be the fortune teller. There were tarot cards in her suitcase after all, or it could have just been a throwaway scene, but those seem rather rare in this show. Well, you're not alone, Glenn. Somebody else said it too. So yeah, maybe there is some truth to this. I don't see a conceivable timeline where Grayson Goodwin could be Sam. He's been dead for a few generations by 1976 and even more generations by 2026. So either Sam doesn't tie into the characters we've met so far, he could be a long-lost Goodwin, Augustine, or Landry from a member of the family who's moved away a long time ago. He could be Ash if the hippie poets didn't die young. Some did opt for the very conventional lifestyles as they adulted, and that's supposing Dell never met Ash.
I mean, it's not even supposing Dell never met Ash because Dell met Alice and didn't remember Alice.
Yeah.
When she met her as her granddaughter.
Right. If Griffin and Tessa did jump together and stayed in the past, he could be a descendant of theirs. I think the writers would have planted more seeds if Sam was Ash, like having him interact with Max in some obvious way. And I still want to know what happened to Jasper Coyle since they don't seem to be any Coyle descendants in Port Haven.
You know what I hope? I hope that the creators of this show have a wall in their room with all of the wrong theories that fans have. And every time a new one takes off, they put it on a Post-it and stick it on the wall and they just laugh.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Oh, I wonder if they've ever used a theory. Did they ever integrate one of the theories?
One final comment from Susie on YouTube. She confirms what others have suggested. I do think Tessa is the fortune teller. I think she went back in time with Griffin to escape Vic and to meet T.S. Eliot, her favorite author. Which, by the way, Tessa, Elliot, T.S. Eliot.
Well, I've already mentioned that.
I know.
In, like last
I know.
season.
Earlier this season you mentioned it.
And I think last season too. And where's the email that I read that said like, shout out to Wendy for doing the T.S. Eliot connection?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
It wasn't intentional. I think Alice and Griffin or Jacob are the ones who leave baby Elliot by the pond. Alice knows that he won't be in danger there because she already knows her and Kat and grown Elliot will be there soon. I think Fern ends up with the temperance inspector guy. At least that's who she has a kid with. I don't know why he doesn't raise her son with her. Perhaps he died in that explosion. Or maybe Fern just never told him and he went traveling around doing that temperance inspector thing. Obviously, something happens at some point that Grayson and Fern don't work out. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I'm excited to glean more information with every episode. I'm afraid that it'll be too rushed in the last 2 episodes of the season. I'm also afraid that they'll make it that this was all a dream or a story made by Kat in the end. Like Lost.
Oh, God, I hope not. I think I would be so disappointed.
It's not going to end like that. This show is not going to end like that. I trust.
It's going to cut back to Alice, like, bugging out on the stage of her high school.
Oh, my God.
Playing the guitar. And then, like, she's like, oh, whoa, I just had, like, the weirdest thing while I was blacked out.
No. Wendy had a memory of an email that I did miss, but I found it.
Okay.
It's from Alexandra, which makes me think of the Forsytes, who says, well, first of all, I actually found your show last year after they added the 3rd season to Netflix. It fits perfectly at the intersection of magical realism and time travel, which are my preferred genres. So, of course, I binge watched it all. Afterwards, I needed to consume more content because why isn't everyone talking about this show? And she found us. Yay. Welcome, Alexandra. Alexandra says, here's my crazy theory. Tessa and Elliot, and in that she capitalized T and S in Tessa, sounds an awful lot like T.S. Eliot. Last season, Elliot says he was named after his mom's favorite author, which is also where all the letters and clock quotes come from. What if Tessa goes back to the past and hides there by pretending to be a man, taking the name of T.S. Eliot, and ends up being the famous author all along?
Oh.
She could have dressed up in men's clothes before jumping, hence why there's a suitcase with her old clothes, and Alice could be the Landry and female figure jumping with her, and that's why she would know for sure that someone would come get baby Elliot's basket after they jumped, because Alice was there when they rescue baby Elliot. Thank you to every single person who has written in, emailed, dropped your voicemails, dropped your DMs, dropped your comments. We appreciate all of it. We're loving your theories. We can't wait to watch episode 3. And if you want to get in on that mailbag, send us your emails and your voicemails to hello@girlsgonehallmark.com, 949-329-8090. Happy watching, y'all. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.